About 3 years ago, I stopped taking photos. If I look through my meticulously organized folders, it was around here. It's a long story, so let me take you back to the beginning. Growing up, I was very lucky that my parents fostered my creativity. At quite a young age, they gave me a simple point and shoot film camera, allowing me to capture my day to day memories all the way up to high school, shooting without a care in the world, and never really thinking about how all of this worked, how this little device could capture an image and transfer it to photo paper. On the other end, they also let me use our family video camera, a Sony Handycam, now broken and probably unusable, but as a kid, it allowed me to capture some of our family memories in motion. But it also captured something else, my growing love for the horror genre. And none more so deeply ingrained in my psyche than the horror anthology series Are You Afraid of the Dark? And this fascination has shaped a lot of who I am. And my inner child promised himself that he would become a filmmaker someday. However, when I finally got to college and had to move away from home, things changed, and I took a course that was completely different. But still, I wanted to hold on to those dreams. And after convincing my parents with what little logic I could muster, they got me my first digital camera, a Canon XSI, released sometime in 2003. This was the first photo taken in that camera. Not a selfie, but more a family portrait by the guy who sold us the camera. Digital basically allowed me to continue capturing memories without the added expense of having films developed, although it did feel a little less magical. So I tried to slowly grow my photography skills with this new medium, and without the limitations of a roll of film, I was able to practice endlessly, taking hundreds of photos at a time. Good photos, bad photos, artsy photos, even this ghost photo. This looks like a man in a wheelchair, right? And I know you won't believe me when I say this, but I really thought these photos were mind-blowing when I was younger. And although it wasn't the same as our Sony Handycam, I now had a device that could capture both photos and videos, bridging the two worlds I had fallen in love with as a kid. And when I got my first mirrorless camera, my Sony NEX-C3 several years later, I started making short horror films with my friends. And it was very spontaneous, with little to no story, but it will always revolve around mystery and horror. And I enjoyed every minute of it. From bizarre one takes that dealt with bending forks and friends, to ghostly apparitions hiding in the corner of dark classrooms, to zombie infections spread through gum disease.
What's wrong with him?
His gums!
Makakausapin natin siya. Pag nilapag ko to, makukuha ko ng relo ko.
And nosy neighbors who got a little too carried away with their possessions. It basically fueled that inner child in me that wanted to be a filmmaker. And this love for creating led me to shooting short travel films, heavily inspired by the likes of Brandon Lee with his amazing style of shooting and editing, though of course I was never as good. But I did try. And with each video, I always felt like I was falling short of my best work. I attributed it to doing too much at the same time, and taking photos was holding me back from taking great videos. Or at least it was what I told myself. So, subconsciously, I made the decision to prioritize filmmaking. I took up multimedia arts during the COVID pandemic, even though I already had a dental degree, because I needed a little extra push. And I wanted to be able to craft much better films, whether about real people and their stories,
I've never biked in my life. But during the pandemic, when, there was little...
or fictional ones that allowed me to think outside of the box and expand my creative and narrative style. And that's when I slowly stopped taking photos. And by stopped, I don't necessarily mean I completely stopped. I still did take photos with my phone or camera, occasionally to replace my profile pictures, to save a random moment, or to share something funny with friends. But that art of photography that I had tried to develop and hone throughout my high school and college days for many years, it basically skidded to a halt, and my main focus was now filmmaking. I invested in filmmaking cameras, lenses, audio gear, tripods, gimbals, you name it. And because of this, I was veering further away from photography with each new project. Until one day when this camera found its way back to me and I tried shooting again. And it took me a little bit of time to get my footing back. I felt like I was a beginner again, and in essence, I was. I was just getting one or two good photos per roll, and it was starting to get frustrating. But I continued on like I usually do, learning from my mistakes, learning day by day, and just enjoying the process all over again. And I started to be more intentional with my photography, something I hadn't done for a long while. I guess I realized that being able to instantly see my photos, whether it's on my phone or on my digital camera, it just made me less careful, and I took the art of photography for granted in a way. Where before I would shoot 100 photos and hope that one would be good enough, now I had to make sure that each click would count. And it took several months and about 8 or 9 rolls of film when things finally clicked. Very intentional pun intended. And I started getting better photos, better hit rates, even much better than when I was using a digital camera, I think. And every time I waited while my film was being developed and processed, I had that anticipation of, did I get things right? Is this going to be another bad roll of film? I wonder how that one shot will come out. It was frustrating, yes, as I'm sure most of us are used to the instant gratification of digital media. But when I finally did get my photos and saw not just one, but several photos that surprised me, I would always find so much joy in it. I feel like it enhances your appreciation for the art and the process, and it helps change your mindset in the way you visualize and take photos. Now, I'm not saying that if you're stuck in a rut, to go buy yourself an expensive film camera and a whole bunch of film, because I'm not going to lie, film is quite expensive. It's frustrating, it's slow, it's expensive, and it may not be for everybody. You can take as good quality photos with your phone, if not better, and without the limitations of film, if you knew what you were doing. So, what knowledge can I impart? What can you learn from my experience? What can you learn from film that you can adapt to digital or otherwise? Well, film will teach you to be more patient, to wait for that click, knowing well that you just have a finite number of shots. A point-and-shoot film camera with all of its limitations can also teach you to be more intentional, as you don't have the luxury of the widest apertures or the latest in focusing technology, or being able to take thousands of images that you can store in a device smaller than a roll of film. It'll teach you to experiment more and try new techniques, to look at the presence or absence of light and find those areas of focus. It'll also teach you to temper your expectations, because you will make mistakes, you'll make a lot of them, and you will get disappointed. But despite all of this, film can create those magic moments that you may not get with a digital camera. And I think that's just what's so human about it, that sometimes we make mistakes, and that can work. But if it doesn't, we can learn from it and we can get better. And that made me fall in love with photography all over again. So as I try to balance both photography and filmmaking again, I think I'm slowly finding that middle ground that I never found before. I'll definitely go back to digital photography sooner or later, but for now, I'm enjoying the process of film photography very much. So, if you have the chance, give film a try. Just know what you're getting yourself into. And I'd just like to say, if you somehow found this video and maybe you're going through something similar, whether it's in photography or something else, I hope that you find a good balance as well. Don't give up on your dreams. Don't give up on that inner child. I haven't yet on mine. Because truly, life has a way of surprising us. Just like film.